But a round of applause for that amazing performance one more time. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Frost. I am part of the dynamic duo, the co-executive directors here at Atlantic Center for the Arts, along with Nancy, Lowden, Norman. And I'd like to welcome you all here to Residency number 161, Inside Out. Having been an esteemed member of this team at Atlantic Center for a number of years, it's so incredible to come out here and just once again be blown away by the energy, the excitement, a performance like this, to see someone use the spaces in this manner. Haven't seen it in a number of years, and it's really exciting for me personally to be out and see this kind of energy and activity. So thank you all, to the artists in residence, to Francis, to Myra, to Ian, to all the associate artists who took a chance, who applied to the program, who were lucky enough to be part of this amazing 3-week experience and come out and work with these incredibly talented artists to build a community and hopefully make a lot of lifelong friendships and relationships that they'll continue to nurture and be involved with each other's work over the next several years. It's a real honor to be out here working here, and of course, big thank you to Nick and Ivan and the rest of the team who make it happen. And of course, for a change, I'll mention thank you to the chef, Chef Sue, because no one ever thanks them. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nancy.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. I would like to recognize our Board of Trustees and our ACA members who support what we do all year long. Thank you so much. You have the vision, you help us support the mission and what happens here at Atlantic Center, and we're so grateful to each of you. For those of you who are in our community, a couple reminders. Coming up on Saturday is the opening at Arts on Douglas. It's a group exhibition, The Floral World Reconsidered. Pardon me, that's from 4 to 7 p.m. And right across the street, the Harold Guard Strappo show will still be up at Harris House. So please join us on Saturday. Next Tuesday, we'll be doing the dedication and ribbon cutting of the Unite Community Mural on the west side at the Babe James Youth Center. This will be from 4 to 6 p.m. Please join us. This is an amazing community project that has been a year in the making, studying African American history, the history of New Smyrna Beach, and it has resulted in a 60-foot mural that was created by our community artist, Shai Morris, and students from the Babe James Youth Center and others from our community. So I hope you can join us then. Lots of exciting things happening all year long at Atlantic Center. Please make sure you pick up our e-current or check out our website, and we're so glad you're here with us this evening. Thank you.
So, hi everyone, I'm Frances Richard. I'm the writer in residence, and I think I'm meant to bring up here the other writers, is that right? So please introduce them, and maybe you can just all identify yourself with a wave. The writers group for this residency was M. Callan, Eleanor Eichenbaum. Bring him up. Okay, then you have to... You have M. Callan, Eleanor Eichenbaum, Christine Udy, Farnaz Fatimi, Melanie Hubbard, Andrea Panzeca, Monica Regan, Aliesa Zoecklein. And in the spirit of the transdisciplinarity that Myra, and Evelyn were talking about, the spirit of this residency was about the verbal and the visual in dialogue. And a number of the writers in the group came with a verbal visual project already underway, and all came with an interest in exploring that kind of two kinds of signs, sharing space and influencing one another. So a lot of what we did was looking at other examples of that kind of work, both poetically and in critical essays, as well as looking at it art historically and looking at a lot of visual work in which language plays a visual role. A lot of talking about that and kind of taking it apart. And then we had a lot of just writing, and writing as a group, writing individually. We had a system of prompts where everyone was taking a prompt from a communal pot every day and writing off that prompt. And I guess the only other thing to say is that I'm so impressed with how much very serious work was accomplished in such a spirit of play and investigation. A really light touch for a very deep dive with this group, and such a lovely spirit with one another. Writing can be quite a solitary thing, and there was a lot of really yeasty, juicy exchange and conversation and collaboration. So really, really nice spirit in the group. And I'll just echo, as a last thing, I'll just say thank you again to Jim and Nancy and Nick and Ivan and Adam and Sue for taking such good care of us and making this so silky smooth and pleasurable. Thanks a lot for that.
I'm Monica Regan, one of those writers, standing there with my compatriots. I just want to echo thanks so much to ACA for this amazing opportunity, and really to all of you for being here to share in some of our works in progress. And I'm going to share something that is an excerpt from something bigger. It's all very new. It was all begun and created here, so it's very much a provisional work in progress. And I'll just dive in. It's called Sightlines. Planes of blank fall and fall. Above the paper field, a sight balloon surveys unspeeched things, Graphite threads, heavy gauge, suture you into sightlines. Whose? The sky goes on forever, they say. Eye blue, it is blind to us. Long below, into the greening, various field, children sever gently. Mute to meaning, limbs of letters dangle, nerveless. The mind circles, vulturing. In walks an eye to object the landscape. Tango for a memory of green. Back, side, forward, side. 2 by 2, big and little feet trample tender the topography, now blank with people. Back, side, trample tender, forward, side, the topography. Back, side, now blank with people. Forward. The future will be too late, I wrote. Cousin Betty says, don't be a gloom. How many Greek the chorus? 50 for a comedy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for a tragedy. Better then to speak about the weather. Warm without night, and clear. Clear is without and night. Without and night, the clear. Clear wind without the and. The clear without night, warm. Night wind without is night. Without the is, wind clear. And is without the night, warm. Is and without the clear. Without and is clear. Is and without, and night. One hates poetry for its refusal to inform. Ah, yes, can't we tart up the scene? Blue sequin selfs the image. Needles of light, heavy gauge, suture me into the subject position. I am. Narcissus, always the first to come up. But let's go back to the beginning. The word was flat until it was round. See? The mind at play in a box of time, where round and the idea of round are locked in orbit. The shadow on the rhetorical cave wall is not the object, the philosopher says. No, not that old trope of light against dark you plead. When up comes Plato's son, the author of sight, see egg sacs, scrotal, glistening under the morning sill. Certain sentences awaken the hunger for narrative. Now what? The eventual tense is the entropic mood in which all nouns will be gerunds, pinning the action into solid state which thickens and things itself and shrinks under its own weight. In the meantime, all of cement is a stage. Make a score for punctuation in 4 staves. First cast in wax, 1 long noon to shellac. Or entropy scene for white wall. Light white cuts blinking, M dashes across and snuffs. Smell the small sizzle of having passed, edge severed, now falls in a rush, delicate as snow. From a pot of air I hurl language marks, pollacking. Letters outside the mind, serif curled, contortionist insects, tenderly antenna the negative space. But give it back to me, spittle slathered, that word I licked, liked, licked again. Spool it, lip it into shape, loop, pool, loop. To be read once required forward motion. Legible has leg in it. Not scrawling baby need, but scissor across the page with bipedal confidence along the dialectical line. Away then with the falsehoods of the poet, Socrates says. But 2 by 2 big and little feet trample. Yes, we roll the world underfoot, shifting the landscape east to east and again. Ask for and get the antique thrust of narrative. Again? Give it to me then. The body and her meaty needs led like a cow to a salt lick. Vervy, isn't she? Once in a time, down some wet hole tumbled tiny girls. Self me, self me, self me, they cried. Down there, they say, a rough hand creatures you, plumped and plucked, was lipped, was lidded, now red-washed in woman's skin. Peel and unpeel are the same action. To bolt is both to fasten and to flee. Seen after, under plastic, with the sheen of having been desired. Then what? I name you. You like it. How my lips circle you in red at the end. 1 lumen is 1 lux per square meter. How far to the end of light? Watch its wake wester, unfolding smooth shadow pleats into a single spangle. Forward motion is a precondition of entropy. But I was speaking in the entropic mood of the death of light, where it grows a sudden mass and thickens, a cumulus piling, lumps of curdled milk, leaden the blue, and out of a lead balloon, never having been red, falls anvilly, flattens the protagonist on the asphalt. Can you do this in verse? At the intersection of 2 clear lines of thought, where? I may have made a little mistake in the procedure. Is the text gendered yet? Circling dialogically eventually cuts a hole, leaves the dialectical arrow limp. Say slow, say slower. Language loosened, infolded skin that once was breast. New to the wrinkle and slack of it, the old have not been old for long. But see, the void is white, refusing all, refracting us back to us. Sharded, we recede. Say, say, say. A line through a circle nulls the set. Thank you.
I'm doing a book, I'm doing a project which involves my dialoguing with a book called Autosuggestion for Mothers, which was written in 1924. It's basically a sort of domestic psychology manual aimed at educating the mother to subliminally suggest healthful dispositions and activities for her children. This is a normal sort of a page, and you don't have a lot of time to read it, but it talks about sort of approaching the side of the bed and saying helpful affirmations, basically invading the child's subconscious. So this is, as you might imagine, a mixed project. It has sort of healthful ends, but it's very manipulative in its approach. So it's a lot about power. And what I've done is paint pages so that certain words appear as a poem, and the rest are sort of obscured. So this page in general is about teaching your child not to lie. So I decided that the key words were fib and jam. And as you can see, we are very much in the jam. So it says fib, fib, jam, fib, fib, jam, jam. And over here, fib, you had forgotten. And over here, baby, haps the jam. So in general, I'm sort of dialoguing with the page and sort of pulling tricks on it and allowing it to also influence what there is to say. I just wanted to show you this page. It's kind of the view from my window here, tribute to how this time and place gets into the work. This is about redirecting the child's sexual energy into healthful pastimes, such as keeping pets or playing the piano. And I've decided to create a pathless sort of space, and the key words here are arable, and on the bottom, or. Thank you.
So it's been so wonderful to work with these associate artists, all of them, but I'm particularly close to the musicians, as you can imagine. We're quite a diverse group, I mean, representing many different genres and styles and approaches to making music. And it's been wonderful to sort of get an in-depth look into everyone's work. But it's also been fun to realize that we have some things in common, and we're able to form an ensemble, a performing ensemble that everyone, all of the associate artists are participating in addition to the many ad hoc jam sessions and performances and improvisational events that have taken place over the 3 weeks. It's been really amazing to watch all the things that people are getting into. But I'd like to introduce the associate artist to you. I guess I'll just call you up. Amy Brandon is a guitarist and composer. Come on up. Ursula Kwong Brown is a violist and composer. A lot of these people are multi-instrumentalists, but I'm just going to mention the instruments they'll be performing on this evening. Jeff Morris does a live electronics, also a composer. I guess it goes without saying that all these people are composers. Eilish Nirian is a pianist and composer. Edward Ratliff is playing cornet and accordion tonight. Jeffrey Shivers is playing objects that are sometimes amplified and sometimes not. Kristina Warren is a vocalist and also does live electronics. Ben Zucker, another multi-instrumentalist, will be playing trumpet and percussion this evening. And Angela Morris, who got left off the list from New York, is playing tenor saxophone this evening. So we wanted to invite all of you to come over to the music studio as part of your visits around the studios. They're going to be doing, in addition to the 2 pieces you'll hear this evening, they'll be doing a short set of compositions that they put together that they all improvise on. So we hope you'll come by and hear those this evening. Thank you.
I'm Kristina Warren. I have a piece next with Angela and Edward. This piece is for soloist and any number of musicians. It uses a text score, which means this is it. There's no musical notation. It's a sort of semi-improvised piece that asks us to respond to verbal conditions as we make music with one another. A few of them, for instance, are river running over the moor, babbling, and ridge exceeding the scar.
the associate artist will tell you that I am the last person who would say, I don't think about it, man, I just play tunes. That for me, I guess my time here at the Atlantic Center there's been a lot about exploring the nature of communication. It's the nature of tunedom in the case of this piece, and in a few specific examples, the boundaries of good taste. But all of this comes to is a lot of things. But here, it's the chance to revise an older work of mine that has previously performed as a pianist and vibraphonist, but broken from one into two, and now have the honor of performing it in a new setting for everybody. So, thank you for your ears.
I just have one short poem, and the title is The Alternate Rising of the Sea. The alternate rising of the sea. Sand island. The water inflated under us, on land. Not land, the surprise made hands lungs, tracing. To sit exerts gravity. Hands print mushy markings. Wave to see, wave not to see. The sea is in puddles. What was thin is heavy in water and leaves tracks. What to hear in the sleeve of a t-shirt. A flock moves together, absent music. Squint in, and the light falls in panels. Nothing refracts like a clear plastic cup. What is it now? Catching. A mirror, glare with no edge.
Hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Panzeca. Gonna read something I was working on this week, so we'll see how it goes. If you're interested in context, there's a poster hanging in the writer's studio. So here we go. The working title is Bad Naturalist, but that might be for another piece, not this one, so we'll see. Thank you for that. That night with the Brandy Alexander is the same as with I Love This. Same night Dad helped me down the stairs. Finally watching Wayne and Maggie. Books as objects to know one through. Tough girl is what I had to be. Getting to the bottom of her lack of baggage. Have to read his book about gay men and opera. Motorcycles and vinyls. No Bibles. Have to read Susan Sontag's notes on camp. Haven't camped in a while, neither with Mike or the naturalists. Mike Martin said he was jealous Mom brought John Voss to the opera. I like the name Campbell, Dad's middle, Scottish can with Pisces tartan, not to mention gender neutral. At the opera with Mom, during intermission, Aunt Wilma's best friend, Sandy, said they and Dad were in a band. He sang covers of Bob Dylan and Peter, Paul, and Mary. Eileen Miles said, "Hi, could you not write that book?" She also said she was a Kennedy, and so were we. Aunt Wilma played piano. Sandy drums, maybe. Not be pre-appalled by the paltriness of the language. Choose the third way to reject the terms, a feminist preoccupation. Dad always talked about us starting a band with the Pets. If the intellectual voltage goes to an endangered point, I have to artificially inject mania into the room. Infinite enthusiasm is going to be haunted by its shadow of the catatonic and the depressive and the speechless, narcoticized fantasia. Mom would say she wanted to play tambourine, though in high school she played clarinet, the one I left in Merritt Island when I left. Of course, coexist as the answer to each other. I cook up cheap thrills so I feel alive enough to analyze. Dad asked me to help him buy her a baton, since she did that too. It was right when the internet came out, and it never came. You have to just do the thing that's next. Pluralize and specialize. Happy to know Dad had a band. Puts a different tinge on everything. Early success. The rhythm by which you would return to one another would make the argument of why they belong together. Informed by poetic nimbleness. How to change your mind. Thank you.
So this has been such an expansive 3 weeks. It's been most amazing, most amazing. And as some of you know, I've spent a lot of time thinking about swimming pools. So this is one of the poems I've written on swimming pools. So I want you to picture, as I read this, the sort of classic kidney-shaped swimming pool. Swimming pools. From above, a jewelscape of embedded glittering, zones of affluence, confluence, a rivering wealth that pools in places. Down here, birthmark, blunder, curve of obfuscate, seduce. Creeping fig, coleus, and the wet curve again. This biomorphic slide, so sensate, so secret, I forget. The sealed edge was opened once, a soil crypt, a mud hole. Days of torrent and repair. Before that, decades of chemical weathering, accretions, intermittent leaching. A crushed stone subbase and then rebar, a tensile melt of refrigerators and auto bodies. Steel bones, said the men bending the basket of the deep end. All this for a curve that signals no threat, no threat. Still, the slender message of amplitude, of woven light, swivels a liquid lapse of better judgment, what every watery child in us fails to understand. Spall, improper setup of the slope line, the microscopic split that begins and begins and begins. Beyond every convincing curve, there's a gate latch moment when the stranger arrives. Study the shape again. The pool swells with itself as if alive. The deep end stretches from shallow, a cell preparing to divide.
Greetings. My name's Edward Ratliff. You might remember me from such cooking shows as my Kips Bay Kitchen. Jeremy Olson and I want to briefly invite you to a 9 p.m. environmental situation called Interlopers. And the way, 9 p.m. sharp, by the way. So just go along the boardwalk, you'll see a sign, and that's, is it this way? Yeah. I have a bad sense of direction. Anyway, you'll find a boardwalk, take a left, then you see the sign where it says stand here. You go there, and then there's also a URL printed that you can log into, and then the fun begins at 9 p.m. and lasts till about 9:15. So we also have Kristina Warren, Angela Morris, and Jeffrey Shivers along for that. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Genevieve. I want to extend an invitation to come to the painting studio where all the visual artists will have the work they've been making. And also to mention a very makeshift performance that is a collaboration that has sort of happened whilst we've all been here between a few artists who were really interested in the Voyager probes that were launched from Cape Canaveral in 1977, and a few of us went along to Cape Canaveral, which has been a really interesting experience for me because I've been obsessed with this deeply for the last 5 years. And just to follow that, we went the day after the SpaceX launch had happened, and we've made a sort of performance intervention, which is out the back of the painting studio, and it relies on projections, so I'm not entirely sure when the light wanes, but I reckon it'll start at 8:30, and we'll stop at 8:55 so you can get to Interlope. And around the other corner, basically there's a little deck outside the painting studio. There's a performance which is a sort of one-on-one situation. So if you venture around the corner, take it in turns. It could entirely fail. It hasn't got dark enough to tell yet. But it's an invitation to painting studio.
So before we all get a chance to go see all of the amazing things that people have set up, which again, as Kate says, some of them are, I should just say many of the things that my group, the visual artists, have been working on have really been exploring ideas of sort of contingency and temporariness, and these sort of testing out all sorts of different kinds of technology and ways of creating artwork that are neither visual art nor performance nor sound, that's living somewhere in between all of these things. So we've done a lot of really interesting stuff with visual media, also working some with sound and creating objects that respond to you in certain ways. So all sorts of stuff like these controllers and instruments that allow you to play with physical electronics and basic sensors and some things with video. And should also want to introduce my group, so I'll sort of call people up. You can come join me. So Young Chow, I can never pronounce her last name, who's a visual artist and media maker from Brooklyn. Kate Genevieve, whom you've seen, from Brighton. Terry Lindblom from Tallahassee, and Aaron Malley from San Francisco, Shannon Novak from Auckland. I think he may have come the farthest. Jeremy Olson from Brooklyn, Paige Starling-Cervillo from Oakland, and Susan Wolfe from Halifax. And you'll get a chance to see a little bit of everybody's work. There are a lot of fantastic little things installed all over the place, as well as these larger performances you've heard about. And really encourage you to also stop and talk to people and talk about what they're doing. It's been a really great 3 weeks to be able to have time to explore and do little bits of working with technology, and then go away and leave it for a bit, and then people start making things, and oftentimes I've been really surprised and amazed at what one thing that I say as a casual aside then comes back and turns into something days later. So thanks to all of you for being part of this. It's been wonderful working with all of them, and again, a huge thank you to the Atlantic Center, who especially, I feel like all of us have been always asking, is there another extension cord? Is there another projector? I mean, we only have like 6 projectors. Can we have a 7th projector and maybe take over this other space and get a welder? And so thank you all. And yep. And if we could get everybody up for a final bow. And I guess we'll take a brief intermission. There are more drinks outside, and take your time to come wander around the studios. And feel free, do talk to people and ask questions. Thank you all.